Have you ever noticed that someone's silence speaks louder than any words? That there's a weight in the way they look at you, as if they're holding something back so it doesn't slip away? That weight isn't carelessness. It's not coldness. It's fear. They are so close that you could reach out and feel their breath. But inside, the distance is immense. It's as if there's an invisible wall between what they feel and what they allow you to see. The curious thing is that sometimes you think you've already understood, that you've perceived the signs. An out-of-place gesture, a smile that lingers a bit too long, a gaze that drifts into yours. But when the moment comes to confirm, they pull back. It's not that they don't want to talk. They do. But their desire is at war with their fear. And so far, fear is winning. What you may not yet realize is that they aren't afraid to feel. They already feel. What terrifies them is what might happen if you know. They think about the risk, the possibility of you pulling away, the awkwardness of running into each other later, the breaking of something that for them is already precious just the way it is. This fear doesn't come from nowhere. They've lost before. They've trusted and watched everything crumble. They've opened their heart to someone and the next day felt the emptiness of being left alone. They've learned that feelings can be weapons and that often they're fired without intention. Maybe deep down they believe that protecting you also means protecting themselves, because if you don't know, there's no rejection. There's no awkward silence afterward. There's no need to deal with your reaction, whatever it may be. So they hide. They transform what they feel into subtle little hints, dropped like breadcrumbs along the way. But at the same time, they hope no one follows that trail to the end. You might even think, if they feel so much, why don't they just say it? But that's where the trap lies. For someone who has already experienced the pain of rejection, simple doesn't exist. In his world, opening up is like walking barefoot on glass. Every step requires courage and an awareness that it can hurt. A lot. He is not willing to go through this without being certain he will come out whole on the other side. And maybe you don't even realize that you've done things that reinforce his fear. Perhaps a casual comment that he interpreted as a sign that he shouldn't move forward. Maybe that one time he tried to get close and you didn't respond the way he hoped. His mind holds on to these moments as evidence that it's better to stay silent. It doesn't matter if you think it was something minor. For someone who already carries old wounds, any scratch can feel like a deep blow. There's an important detail. His fear is not just about you, it's about himself. About not feeling enough. About thinking that if you knew the depth of what he feels, you would realize he's not who you thought he was. He fears that confessing won't bring him closer to you, but rather push you away. That honesty won't be received as courage, but as a burden. And this creates a cruel paradox. He wants you to know, but fears what you will do with that information. Maybe you find yourself asking, but should I speak first, give a clearer signal? The answer isn't straightforward. If you push too hard, you might scare him off and make him retreat even further. If you wait too long, you could lose the moment when he finally finds the courage. This is the silent dance between you. Steps taken and withdrawn, subtle movements that no one admits to making. And the most curious part is that sometimes he imagines entire conversations with you, phrases he never says out loud, but rehearses in his mind, waiting for the perfect moment. Only the perfect moment never arrives. Have you noticed how he changes the subject when something gets too close to what he feels? Or how he laughs awkwardly to mask the tension? This isn't indifference, it's defense. He built a kind of emotional armor made of distractions and calculated silences. This armor isn't meant to push you away. It's to prevent the impact of your response, whatever it is, from hitting him with full force. Deep down, he has hope. Even when he tries to disguise it, he hopes that one day you'll notice without him needing to say anything, that you'll read in his gestures what he doesn't dare to put into words. But hope also scares him, because hoping is risking disappointment. And for someone who has seen dreams crumble, that's almost unbearable. There are nights when he thinks about sending you a message. Phrases that start with, "I need to tell you something," and end in silence. His fingers type, but fear deletes it before the message ever reaches you. He prefers the emptiness of uncertainty to the weight of a response he doesn't want to hear. And as distant as it may seem, there is a perceptible truth for those who look closely. His fear isn't a lack of love. It's precisely because he feels too much that he remains silent. And that's the part that hurts, for both you and him. If this has happened to you, comment, "I needed to hear this." And while you try to decipher, he lives with this daily contradiction, wanting to be seen but hiding, wanting to speak but staying silent. Maybe one day, in an unexpected moment, he will break the silence. Perhaps you won't even realize that this moment has been building for a long time. Maybe when it happens, everything will change, for better or worse. But until then, he will remain in this suspended space, where the unspoken screams louder than any declaration. He has come so close to speaking that he almost felt the relief ahead of time. Almost. The moment was there, ready to turn into truth. But, as always, a shadow passed through his mind and severed the moment at its root. The shadow wasn't of your imagined reaction, but the memory of other times, other conversations, other glances, other awkward silences that came after he opened up. His mind functions like a file of pains, ready to present evidence that vulnerability is dangerous. When the memory resurfaces, he feels his body freeze. The heart, which once raced with nervousness, now pounds heavily with fear. It's as if all the words he had gathered collapse inside him, turning into a jumble of sounds too cowardly to escape. Have you noticed that he avoids eye contact when the subject gets too close to what he feels? He looks down, to the side, at any point that isn't your eyes, because he knows that if he looks long enough, you might notice. And noticing would mean recognizing, and recognizing would mean having to respond. What he really doesn't want is to put you on the spot, because he imagines that if you don't feel the same way, you'll feel guilty, and he doesn't want to be remembered as someone who caused discomfort. So he maintains a fragile balance between showing enough to not fade away and hiding enough to not expose himself. Inside him, the conversation has been rehearsed hundreds of times. He goes over word by word, testing different combinations, thinking about how to start so that it sounds light, not suffocating. He imagines the tone of voice, the strategic pause, even the expression on his face to seem secure. But he always arrives at the same point, the fear that you won't react in the way he dreams. And in that moment, he prefers to hold everything back and wait for a day when maybe feels safer. The problem is that this maybe drags on, and the longer he waits, the heavier it becomes. There's also the fear of the after, because even if you responded well, he fears that the relationship would change. Maybe you'll grow distant, maybe everything will become awkward. To him, losing what already exists is worse than never having tried. This is the dilemma that eats away in silence, the fear of losing by acting versus the fear of never having anything by not acting. He finds himself trapped between two possible pains, not knowing which one he could endure less. The curious thing is that he picks up on your gestures almost obsessively. A different smile, a lingering touch, a phrase that seems inconsequential. Everything becomes material for him to analyze. It's as if he's looking for signs that if he speaks up, he won't be rejected. But this search doesn't bring any relief, because even when he finds a sign, he questions, is it real or am I just seeing what I want to see? This doubt paralyzes him more than the certainty of rejection, because certainty hurts, but doubt eats away at him day after day. He has considered writing you a letter. On paper, he could say everything without the pressure of being in front of you, but the moment he picks up the pen, he feels like he's opening a door that he may never be able to close. So, he gives up. He puts the blank sheet away as if postponing his own fate. There are moments when the desire to open up is so strong, it feels physical. An impulse in his chest, an urgency in his throat, as if the words are pounding against him from the inside, begging to get out. But then he takes a deep breath and pushes everything back into silence. And outwardly, everything seems normal. He laughs, talks, makes jokes, maintains the appearance of someone who doesn't hold anything important inside. But inside, he carries a weight you can't even imagine. Maybe you've felt this tension too, even if you couldn't name it. The air shifts when you two are alone. The conversation feels slower, as if every word is chosen with too much care. And in the moments of silence, it's almost palpable that something is being avoided. He knows you notice something, but he trusts that you won't push, because if you push, his fear will raise even taller walls. He lives in a strange paradox. He wants you to figure it out on your own, but he fears that you might figure it out the wrong way. He wants to be seen, but he doesn't want to be exposed. This contradiction keeps him in a constant state of alert, always measuring what he says, how he says it, and when he says it, always adjusting his own behavior to avoid revealing more than he feels is safe. And yet he lets slip small openings, not because he failed to control himself, but because deep down he wants some part of you to guess. When he thinks about the future, he imagines two scenarios. In the first, He never says anything. You both continue as always, and he ages with the eternal question of what might have happened. In the second, he speaks, and everything changes, for better or for worse. The problem is that he cannot decide which of these futures hurts more. Sometimes he watches how you talk to other people, how you smile, how you touch, how you get close, and this makes him question whether the signals he perceives are exclusive or if you behave this way with everyone. This uncertainty is like a slow poison. He wanted to believe there was something special. But the fear of being wrong is stronger than the hope of being right. You might think he doesn't trust you, but the truth is that he doesn't trust his own worth. That's what holds him back more than anything else. He thinks, if I were different, more interesting, more confident, maybe I wouldn't be so afraid. This thought follows him like a persistent shadow. And even though he knows that time is passing, that opportunities won't come back, he still can't act, because for him, acting means jumping off a cliff without knowing if there's a safety net. He's experienced falls like that before, and he still feels the scars. If you've ever been through something similar, say, I know exactly how it feels. In his silence, there's more than just shyness. There are old stories, open wounds, unfulfilled promises, and fears so deep that he doesn't always understand them. He believes he is protecting himself, but perhaps without realizing it, he is distancing himself from what he desires most. And it is at this point that the line between protecting oneself and losing oneself begins to blur. There are gestures of yours that he holds onto like anchors, small proofs that maybe it is safe to take a step forward. Sometimes it's the way you listen without interrupting. Other times it's the way you look at him when you think he doesn't notice. These moments act like cracks in the wall he's built. They don't bring it down all at once, but they allow light to seep in. And for someone who lives in the shadow of fear, even a beam of light is enough to reignite hope. But the opposite is true as well. There are things you do that, without meaning to, reinforce his apprehension. A change in your tone of voice, a day when you seem more distant, a comment that means nothing to you but to him sounds like a warning to pull back. You might even think it's an overreaction, that he's reading too much into it. But for someone who bears the mark of rejection, everything is analyzed. Every pause, every silence, every gesture. He looks for meaning in everything, not because he wants to complicate things, but because he fears reliving old stories. And his fear isn't just about losing you. It's about losing himself in the process, about feeling small, invisible, insignificant again. That's why he scans the ground before each step, like someone testing the stability of the ground before crossing a narrow bridge. Sometimes you may notice that he perks up, starts to open up more, almost seems ready to say something, but then suddenly he retreats again. This isn't indecision, it's self-preservation. He probably saw or felt something that triggered an internal alarm, and that alarm doesn't ask if it was intentional, it just reacts. You may never know what the trigger was, maybe a passing comment, maybe a gesture that reminded him of a bad experience. The fact is, for him, every sign of danger weighs more than any promise of safety. Yet he still stays near. He could pull away, find a way to cut ties, protect himself completely. But he doesn't do that, because despite the fear, there's something about you that's worth sticking around for. This presence is silent but powerful. It means that even without knowing it, you already provide more security than he is used to having. And that's what keeps the flame alive. Small, unstable, but very much alive. You might be wondering, what could I do to make him feel safe enough to talk? The answer isn't straightforward, because it's not just about your actions, but about the time he needs to allow himself to trust. But there's something that always helps: consistency. When your words and actions align, he notices. When you respond in a steady manner, without sudden changes in mood or closeness, he notices. When you show genuine interest in what he says, even about simple matters, he notices. These are the building blocks that gradually construct the bridge he needs to cross. There's also the power of a safe space. Not a physical place, but an emotional space where he knows he can be heard without judgment, where he can speak and not feel that he will be ridiculed, pressured, or rejected. This space isn't created through grand gestures, but through consistency, with small confirmations that he can exist fully without needing to hide. And when he realizes that this space exists, perhaps what you have been hoping for all along will finally happen. The truth will come to light. But it's important to understand, even if you do everything right, the final step is still his to take. He may need more time than you would like. He may only be able to speak when something inside him breaks or transforms. It's not a matter of ability. It's about feeling that the risk is worth it. And when that moment comes, don't expect it to come with rehearsed lines or perfect phrases. The confession might come out confused, rushed, full of pauses and heavy breaths. Because what's at stake isn't just a feeling, it's the reconstruction of a whole piece of his story. There's one detail you may not have considered. If he speaks, he will be giving not just the present, but also his past into your hands. He will be revealing scars, fears, and insecurities that he may have never shared with anyone. And that's no small thing. For him, it's almost like granting access to the most secure vault he carries. You need to decide if you are ready to receive this. Because when someone opens up like that, there's no going back. The relationship changes forever. Whether it's for better or for worse will depend on how you respond. So while he still holds on to his silence, observe. Notice what he reveals without saying. Pay attention to the patterns, the pauses, the glances. And if one day you feel the moment has arrived, choose the lightest way possible to create space. Sometimes, a simple question can be the start of everything. Something like, is there something you'd like to tell me, but don't know how? This question doesn't require him to speak immediately, but it plants a seed that can grow at the right time. And until then, remain mindful. Continue being a place where he feels he doesn't have to be more than he already is. Because in the end, what softens fear the most is the constancy of affection. And when the moment comes, you will notice. You'll see it in his unwavering gaze, in the way his breath seems heavier, in how he moves closer even without saying a word. And then perhaps the words will finally come. He may say everything at once or just part of it, but however it comes, it will be enough to change what exists between you. If this resonated with you, the next step is inevitable. You've already understood his silence, now you need to understand its origin. Click here and continue with me.